Welcome back to the show, everybody. We got a great one lined up for you today. We are going to break down the full interview from Charles Gasparino at the Milken Institute on Fox Business News with Brad Garlinghouse, and there is straight fire in it. Let's go ahead and roll that beautiful intro.
This is Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Subscribe for new content notifications. Now, here's Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show. You can follow me on Twitter at BackUpBradleyAbove, and everything that we're talking about here today. $2.535 trillion market cap, ladies and gentlemen. How about that? We're almost back at the all-time high for crypto market cap. Such an important place for us to be, because once we get to that level, and we're not far away from it now, we're going to see nothing but new money pouring in when it goes above 3 trillion, 4, 5, 6, maybe even 7 and 8 before this bull cycle's over. If the bull cycle ends up lasting into the first quarter of next year, possibly. Maybe not, but there we go. Looking right now, Bitcoin is $63,909.57. It's up 15+%, almost 16% on the 7-day. Ethereum now rocking at $3,800 plus, and it is up 11.66 on the 7-day. Cardano is at 215. Not much movement, but it's holding its number. And XRP right now has been moving a little bit on the 24-hour. It's up 2.44%, and it is at $1.11. Let's look at the price range really quickly here. We do know that technical analysts have told us to be aware for a possible break to the upper side of the price range. And if we get above $1.30, I think most of the technical analysts are telling us we will be headed to new all-time highs for XRP price eventually. So that is exciting as well. Looking at 111 right now, we see 107.31 is the low range of XRP. The upper end is almost where we are currently in price at 111.76. Now, listen, the numbers are brought to you by Link2, private investing made simple. But guess what? Link2's got Ripple on it, and they've got a lot of other great products. Uphold, and look, you can use your crypto on Uphold to buy Ripple. That's how amazing that is. And I can't understand for the life of me how the SEC could be confused about the fact that XRP is not a security. It's pretty baffling. But nevertheless, you can use your XRP to convert and get actual Ripple shares. So that is pretty remarkable there. I want to break down this clip because this full interview is straight fire. And shout out to Charles Gasparino. They're going to touch on many, many different points through this thing. And I'm about to start it. And we're just going to hit a few highlights through here because it's really incredible. But what I wanted to say is that while you're listening to this, I want you to understand that the U.S. is the only place that's having an issue with Ripple and XRP. And I do believe at some point, this lawsuit that was brought on Ripple and Brad Garlinghouse and Chris Larson, the co-founders here, will be, and the CEO will be gone. At some point, this will end, right? And when it does, I have to remind people, this is why I talk about these opportunities like Ripple and the private equity. Yes, you have to be accredited. If you don't know what that is, click the button and find out. But you know what? This is a moment here, I believe, that at some point, this untenable situation must end. It must come to an end. And I do not see a situation where Ripple is not able to operate in the United States as it currently is. And you're about to hear Brad Garlinghouse talk about that exact fact. Let's go ahead and start this from the top. Here we go.
Brad, thanks for joining us.
It's great to be here. Good to see you, Charlie.
You've been here at this conference in the past. I just want to get your feeling. You've been bouncing around. Different vibe this year?
Different vibe to some degree, but I think it's actually vibrant. There's a lot of obviously people here. It's one of the first conferences I've been to post-COVID, probably really the only one. And I think, it feels like the world is slowly returning to normal. They're being very disciplined about masks.
I know, we just got pulled over.
We did get pulled over.
Let's still go to your case, and I know that's kind of a very consuming thing. You guys are building out your business in Europe. I guess your focus here in the U.S. is this case that the SEC brought against you. Any updates on this?
Look, the good news for Ripple is since the SEC filed their lawsuit, we really haven't been able to operate in the U.S. because of this uncertainty that has existed and continues to exist. Outside the United States, we have continued to have an amazing year.
Yeah.
Q3 is a record year on every metric. So we feel really good about the fact that we can continue to build the business outside the U.S.
I think that's such an amazing point. And again, not financial advice from me or anyone else, Brad Garlinghouse or anybody else on this channel, but I'll tell you this. I think that's such an amazing point. They're having such an incredible year outside of the United States. This situation cannot continue to last. It has to be resolved at some point, because think of this for a moment before we go. And I won't get on the soapbox, but Ripple is a blockchain infrastructure company. To me, when I talk to people that don't understand the difference between blockchain and crypto or Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies that are new to the space, and they're like, what in the world, all this verbiage? What I say to them is imagine a blockchain infrastructure company as a payment company, a brand new payment company. And if the cryptocurrency network, the payment network, if that blockchain and crypto actually have a use case, a problem they can solve, more than likely you could look at that as a modernized payment network that's immutable, scalable, secure, efficient, the whole bit. I just described the XRP Ledger, which is a payment network that complements the full suite of products offered by Ripple, the blockchain infrastructure company.
But on the other hand, I'm a U.S. guy. It's a U.S. company. Our headquarters are in San Francisco. We have a big office in New York. And, I would like to see the SEC process move forward and get closure. I think the whole industry benefits from that clarity and certainty about how digital assets will be regulated, and that doesn't exist in the United States. And it does exist in other countries, frustratingly.
It does. You want it to be expedited. Does the SEC want it to be expedited?
Well, so far no. As you probably know, the SEC was in a hurry to file this case. It was filed a day before Jay Clayton, the then chairman, left office. And now, just recently, they've actually asked to extend the expert discovery process out into January, which, as you probably know, it's very unusual for the plaintiff to ask for a delay.
Oh, yeah.
Typically, the
it's
defendant,
the other way around.
We're the ones kind of pushing, because we think it's very clear that this is not a violation of the U.S. securities laws. XRP is not a security, and we think ultimately that will be proven out in the courts, so we want to get to the judge as quickly as possible.
Very quickly, I just want to show you this because this is interesting too. This was from crypto_-ODL, who reminded us as well in a 2019 report from the U.S. Department of Treasury. They see Ripple, or XRP rather, as a digital currency also. It says right here, digital currency to which addresses correspond, and they highlight all of the different coins, XRP included, each digital currency address listed, yada, yada. You get this. The Treasury Department, the prudential regulator above the market regulator like the SEC, sees it as a digital currency. What's interesting about that is that in 2019, Jay Clayton right here signed that document from the Treasury, the annual report, acknowledging that in fact was a digital currency as well. Let's keep listening to this amazing interview. Again, shout out to Charles Gasparino.
Let me ask you about Jay Clayton. And, I've known Jay for a long time. I've always got along with him. I know Gary Gensler. Gary Gensler was an MIT professor before he took Jay's job. But he had some interesting thoughts about Ripple while he was an MIT professor. He thought it was a security. He thought it's exactly what Jay has said, or what the SEC under Clayton and now Gensler is saying. They met a bunch of times before that lawsuit. They met, I think, a day before the lawsuit. It was under the guise, or allegedly for transition team, because Gensler was on the Biden transition team. But they also met in March. What do you make of these meetings? I mean, are they worrisome for you?
I mean, they're not worrisome. I mean, so first of all, one of the things you said, which I think is accurate, but also part of the confusion is Gensler's on video in 2018 also saying he thought XRP wasn't a security.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And one of the beautiful things about what's happening in the Twitterverse is people are finding these clips that are actually contradictions to what they might have said, and it gets to the heart of the lack of clarity.
And that is a shout out directly to all of us who have been carrying the torch to expose with their own words the inconsistencies in leadership and regulation from the SEC, no matter who's been in the chair.
if the now chair of the SEC in 2018 was saying two different things, how can we, Ripple, how can I individually know what the SEC might think in the future? So, look, I believe very strongly that we will get to a good place here. I think it's clear that on Capitol Hill, they're paying more attention to this, frankly, partly because of your reporting. And I think that also is good for the whole industry. If we get into somebody, Gensler has also called out, hey, we need more clarity by saying that we need legislation, but he's saying it's clear there's a contradiction there. I think it looks like Capitol Hill is kind of leaning in a little bit now, which is, I think, a very
really? So
positive.
you think there's going to be some movement to maybe set an Uber regulator as opposed to this sort of mishmash of regulation?
Or just to write clarifying laws.
Oh, interesting.
I think you're seeing more senators, more representatives understand that this is a real issue. They're hearing from their constituents this is a real issue. The effort for XRP holders against the SEC now is apparently 45,000 people here in the United States.
The lawyer told me that, 45 and growing.
And now it's over 50,000, and we need to grow that to 100,000 is the new number to hit for all of us. Because remember this, Brad Garlinghouse's job as the CEO of Ripple is to make sure that Ripple gets this case resolved for Ripple and its customers and its full vision of how to roll out what they're doing here in the United States, as well as how they're doing it across the globe. And it's John Deaton who has decided to carry the torch for all of us XRP investors. And that's why it's so important to sign up for that class action lawsuit. There is no downside to be a part of that lawsuit. You do not have to reveal how much XRP you hold. You do not have to give up private keys or any crazy stuff that I've heard people talk about. There is absolutely zero downside to that. Leave your information. It will remain private with John Deaton, and it will never be shared without your consent. Let's keep listening.
That is not a small number.
No.
And when those people start calling their representatives, start calling their senators, they pay attention.
You kind of ducked my question, though. Are you a little concerned about those meetings?
Look, optics matter, right? And so do I think some of the optics are a little bit, that's interesting. It's kind of ironic because the SEC obviously, I think in a good way, fights for disclosures. They fight for clarity.
Right.
But then when we ask the SEC to provide disclosures and clarity, you see these things happening. You're like, wait a minute, shouldn't you, what were those meetings? What was the substance and why? And look, what we seek more than anything is clarity and certainty. We think the SEC should play by the same rules around disclosures and clarity that we try to.
Bill Hinman gave that famous speech where he declared Ethereum a cryptocurrency, no SEC involvement. Bitcoin, obviously. I found out later on that Jay did have some input, pre-publication, pre-speech. What do you think of that?
Well, I think one of the things the SEC has said is that was Bill Hinman's personal opinion.
Right.
It's hard to feel like there's a lot of activity that suggests that's much more than one person's individual opinion.
Right.
When the SEC comes out and they post a speech on their website, when they reference it in other things, it feels like that's more than that.
All right. Speaking about optics, Bitcoin ETF. I just got off the phone with Mike Novogratz, crypto investor. I believe he's an investor in Ripple too, isn't he?
He is a shareholder. He's a shareholder of Ripple, which Ripple shares, those are securities.
Okay.
And they are registered.
Okay.
Or they're under an exemption.
I read that somewhere. That's good to clarify. I asked him about this, and he said it's symbolically, the fact that there is an ETF of Bitcoin, symbolically significant, huge. He used some superlative word. He was a little more dubious about the practical impact because it's a futures contract. Are you on board with that?
Well, first of all, Mike has been one of the most kind of prescient crypto investors out there, and I think generally when he says stuff, I agree with him. In this case, I also agree. It's a baby step. It's unfortunate that all we can really expect from the SEC right now are baby steps. So I think it's a positive step, but I agree with him in the construct that it's actually a futures ETF as opposed to actually a pure Bitcoin ETF. It really is going to appeal, I think, to very sophisticated investors. To the extent we want to open up the industry, democratize the industry, allow access to the industry, And I think it's symbolic, or I think that was a word Mike used.
And
I want to remind people also, because I think Brad Garlinghouse is an incredible CEO, and he balanced and danced around that Mike Novogratz comment very well. And of course, he agreed with him. And look, I agree with the both of them too. The ETF, albeit a futures ETF, is good for the space, and it's going to bring a lot more money in. And then when I say good for the space, it's going to bring a lot more money in, but it's also going to give large institutions and hedge funds the ability to control more of the market with an up and down lever on Bitcoin. Now, with that being said, I also want to remind people very quickly that yes, Mike Novogratz does hold Ripple, and he may even hold some XRP. But in the early days when he bought Ethereum, $500,000 worth, or 500,000 Ethereum, whatever it was, for 99 cents from Vitalik Buterin, and he was participating in an unregistered security, I believe, and an initial coin offering at the time. You have to understand that he was also taking to the major media airwaves and beating up things like XRP and Ripple, the company, and still does, recently as last April. And I find it very interesting that he has been a person who has had advantages of buying into an initial coin offering, which has not been held accountable by the SEC. He's made a lot of money, probably, I don't know how many hundreds of millions of dollars it is, but it's a lot, and got away with it, and then used mainstream media appearances to talk up his book and to talk down the things that he felt really were competitors at the time. Let's keep listening.
Downside to retail getting involved in futures, it's priced differently. It's a little more of an opaque market, correct?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think if you start getting into the weeds of how futures work, you're alienating a segment of the market that might not, be familiar with how futures work.
Okay, before I let you go, will there be an XRP ETF?
Well, look, I think this it's a really important question, maybe less so specific to your exact answer, which I promise not to dodge. But why is the SEC picking winners and losers?
Yeah.
Why is a government entity deciding this is a winning one, which, by the way, happens to have, some pros and cons, massive power consumption, which isn't great for a climate agenda that Gary Gensler cares a lot about, but being silent about other things. And then, and one of the challenges right now is Gary Gensler, who has been asked specifically about ETH, hasn't commented.
The Ethereum.
But if it's so clear, if the laws are so clear and he's asked a specific question, then just answer the question because it's clear.
Well, what's interesting is I have this debate with people all the time. They're like, well, the internet is regulated. I said, no, it's not. The internet is not really regulated. You can't post illegal stuff. You can't post kitty porn. You could post it, but you'll get arrested after you post it. That's where I think, would you agree with this notion that the regulation of not just the cryptos, but it all comes down to your technology on Ripple, it could have a stifling effect?
Well, I think it's already had a stifling effect.
Right.
I mean, here in the United States, it has frozen certainly Ripple's activity in the United States. I think, you saw XRP get delisted from most exchange or halted trading of most U.S. exchanges. So I think it has had a stifling effect here in the U.S. Hopefully when we get to the end of this, there'll be certainty and clarity. And frankly, it could be a very positive thing for the XRP ecosystem and community that it's the one crypto where there is clarity and it is certain.
Do you see a settlement of your case in the works?
Look, I would love to spend less time on this and be able to move forward. The one thing that Ripple cares about more than anything, and really for the whole XRP ecosystem, is that there's clarity going forward that XRP is not a security. If that's not in the cards in a settlement, then there's nothing to settle.
I just want everybody to know,
viewers,
I've asked Gary Gensler to come on. I've asked Bill Hinman to come on. I've asked Jay Clayton to come on. I've asked the people at Ethereum to come on. I've asked anybody to come on. I've asked who's the guy that created Bitcoin again? And that's
Satoshi. Well,
we don't know. We don't know. But I'd ask him.
He or she.
Nobody knows.
Or they.
They. No one said yes. You're the only guy that did. Thank you.
Well, thank you for looking into it.
Thanks.
And there you have it. And what a great interview that was. Shout out again to Charles Gasparino and everybody there at Fox Business who's been carrying the torch on this incredible situation. Look, I feel like this case is really a historic case. I mean, if you just think about it, I mean, look, this is why I tell you guys, if you have not done it, go read this letter. I'm going to break it down in the next video and many other things to come. There's so much news going on this morning. But if you have not done it, go to John Deaton's Twitter page and please sign up for the class action lawsuit. Let's get this number to 100,000 because our voice is not Ripple's voice. It is Brad Garlinghouse's job to get Ripple out of that case. We have John Deaton to handle representing all of us. Let's not confuse the two. They have a job to do and we do too. And our job right now is to show up in numbers and to also reach out and tag anything that you feel important to your representative or senator in your district or anybody that is in the Congress that you feel is paying attention to what is happening in this industry. We need to be a bigger voice, and that's my call to action for this morning. By the way, again, don't forget, Ripple is available right now. Private equity, private investing made simple at link2.com. It goes so quickly. Do not mess around. Go check it out. I'll catch all of you on the next one.